Hey y'all, welcome to the East to West Garden. I am Reginald, your host. And what I got today is a process of making bread from wheat berries. Whole wheat bread from wheat berries. Uh, See, the problem of buying and selling is becoming a serious one. All you got to do is look at the gas prices and check out the food prices in the store. And it will help you to understand that the problem of buying and selling is becoming a serious one. So what do we need to do about that? One way is to learn how to make your own products. Learn how to produce your own food. One method of producing your own food would be bread making. A lot of times when there's a storm or any type of event that takes place, what's the first things that go off the shelf? Bread and milk. That's the weirdest thing to me. Bread and milk. And then the last pandemic, it was toilet paper. Out of all the things, toilet paper. So I would say it's good to prepare yourself for events that have not taken place so that when they take place, you're prepared. I hope that makes sense. So today I want to show the process of making wheat bread, whole wheat bread, from the actual wheat berries. And I'm going to do as much as possible to show each step. However, I'm not going to go through the whole time span because from start to finish would probably be 3 hours or more, because you have to account for the time, the grinding portion of the bread, of the wheat berries, then the mixing of the flour, water, salt, all that into dough. Then you also have to account for the time it takes for the dough to rise the first time. Then you separate it, put it into the dough pans, and for it to rise again. Then you have to account for the baking time. So what I'm going to do is give the instruction, show some of the process, and kind of clip it up so that it's not super long for you all. It'll be longer for me, but for you all, it won't be as long. So that way, hopefully it can encourage you to try making your own bread. Now, this process is using wheat berries, but if all you have is just the wheat in a bag, then don't worry about the process of grinding the wheat. Just start from the wheat that has been ground. Now I may do another video that will show me using bagged wheat already, and that process, because it is a little different, but we're trying to learn. This is a process. This is a channel where you can learn different skill sets. You can learn about the Bible. You can learn gardening and all kind of little nuanced things. Sewing, welding. I'm learning welding, so you can learn with me. and even building certain things. So at this time, we're going to go to the process of making wheat bread from the wheat berries. All right, let's get started. Okay, I'm at the table, and what I have in order to make the bread from wheat berries. I got two types of wheat. I have the hard red winter wheat, and then I have the hard white wheat berries, Prairie Gold. So two types of wheat berries. You don't have to use two different types of wheat berries in order to make your bread. All you really need is one, but I want a mixture. So you're gonna need you some measuring cups. I got two different kinds. Measuring spoons. Then you're going to need, you don't need the honey, but it's, hey, I like a little honey in my bread. A little salt. A little yeast, active dry yeast. Water. And then some type of bowl to measure your wheat. Now, I am actually in the process of developing my own bread recipe. So I'm literally going to measure out my wheat berries so that they're perfectly even. So I'm actually going to use 2.5 cups of the hard red winter wheat and 2.5 cups of the hard white wheat. And then we will put those together, grind them up, and that will be our flour that we're going to use in order to make the wheat bread that I want. It should equal two loaves once it's all said and done. All right, so let's get started with that portion. 2 cups. Now the reason that I'm measuring, I'm actually weighing it out. I'm weighing it out in grams. So let me put it on grams. Yeah, on grams. A lot of times you can take your measuring cup and say that's 2 cups, but it may not be exactly 2 cups because you got different size granules and stuff like that. So that's 1 cup. And then this is cup number 2. Has some spillage. So right now that's showing 400 grams of wheat berries, but I need a 1/2 cup more. So I'm gonna measure it. And I'm gonna get as close to what I think a 1/2 is, which is about right there, and add that to the mix. So now I know what I just poured was 511 grams of wheat berries in this cup of the white wheat. So we'll set that to the side. And I'm gonna transfer it over into this bowl. All right, and we're gonna do the same thing here. 511 grams of hard red wheat now. And that will be our base. That will be our starting point. That gives a 50-50 mix for this bread that I want to make. Yeah, I can literally see there's how much of a difference between the hard white and the hard red there is. So technically that's 2.5 cups, but it's not the same. It's only showing 470. So I'm gonna go a little bit more because I want it to be the same weight. 511. That was our goal. So 511 is where I'm heading to. And it's nice to be able to just measure it out, because then you can get exact measurements and you're able to duplicate the recipe exactly. That's 511. So we're done with the wheat, the hard white, the hard red. We're done with that process. So now we're gonna move over to the grinder, to the wheat mill that I have, and then we will get started with grinding the wheat. All right, y'all, here it is. The Excalibur Flour Mill Company has made a flour mill. This is something I don't even know if they're in business anymore, but as you can see, it's a pretty decent flour mill. This is something that my parents picked up from an estate sale, and it did have a door on it, but it got broken. And then there's a pan that was in there, but it got lost, and so I had to make another pan. But anyway, got my little cleaning utensil, which is a toothbrush. But yeah, you grind it, you put the wheat in here. These stones will grind the wheat, and then, or the wheat berries, and the wheat will fall in here. So let's get started with that. First up, hard red wheat. That's it. You just put it in the hopper, and it's good to go. I'll even add the white, as much of it as I can, because they're going to be blended together. So that's as much as I can get in there for now. And then we'll just get started with that process. I'm going to hit the button, but then I'm going to pause the video and show you the final result. Look, y'all, I'm not even finished, but look how much. I think I'm just a little bit over halfway. Look at all this that has been produced. That's nice. So I'm gonna dump this out and continue the process. Okay, so I'm done. But consider this, the thing about grinding your own flour is there is dust that takes place. I mean, you can see, you may not be able to see on the screen, but there's a little bit of dust. A little bit of dust. Flour dust. I'm gonna just knock all that into the pan, because this is flour. It used to be wheat berries. Now it's flour. That's so cool to me. Make my own flour. And I just planted some of the hard white out in my garden, because I want to see if I can actually grow it. If I can grow it, that'd be even better, depending on how hard the process is of growing it and prepping it to actually become a proper wheat berry, I think that would be pretty cool to do. But yeah, this is the process. And you can see, once again, look at how much wheat I got. That's a lot. So I'll be back with all this stuff in the bowl. All right, I'm back. Look at this. Fluffy, soft. That, my friends, is whole wheat. Grounded from wheat berries. Now, just a side note, make sure you clean out your flour mill when you're done. If you're not using it on a day-by-day basis, then I would encourage you to make sure your flour mill is cleaned out. Sweep it out or brush it out, vacuum it out, and that way you don't have any unnecessary contaminants or anything getting in there. All right. Next process we're gonna make. All right, so I got my water. I've actually warmed it up in a pan, and this is 2 3/4 cups of water. That's quite warm. But the recipe calls for warm water. So that may be a little bit warmer than we really want. So I'm gonna add a little bit more water to it. Just because, the only reason I'm doing that is because with the whole fresh ground wheat, it absorbs more moisture than normal. So we're gonna add a little bit more, so like maybe another fourth of a cup, just to cool it down a little bit. Then we're gonna put in our salt, which is 3 teaspoons worth of salt. And with this warm water, it's gonna help the salt to dissolve a little bit quicker. And that's what you want. That seems like that's a lot of salt, but it's not bad. It's not bad, I promise. I promise. I'm just gonna mix it around in there just to kind of help it along. Now I'm going to put in my oil. They say put butter or margarine. I'm gonna use some olive oil and let that do its thing. I've been doing it for years. So we're gonna put some olive oil in there. So I'm gonna add a fourth of a cup of olive oil, like so. And then it's asking for half a cup of honey, but I'm gonna put more because I like my bread to have a little more ooey to it. And I put the olive oil in there first so that the honey will naturally come out a whole lot easier. And this is partially real time. There is a little bit of stoppage editing, but very little. I'm just showing you the bits and pieces so that you can see it in real time and you can kind of gauge what your process is going to be when you begin making your own bread from wheat berries. So that's a half a cup, and I'm gonna add another fourth, so that'll be three quarters of a cup of honey into this mix. 'Cause I want to taste it. I want to taste the honey. I like that sweetness. I don't do the processed sugar like I used to. When I messed around and got a staph infection and began to the process of healing, I was praying about it, and the Lord began to impress on me, I believe, to stop eating sugar. So I stopped. I said, I'd rather be well than out here not healing. And the Lord bless. I mean, 10 days later, even my joints were feeling better. So that's something for whoever is watching this video to consider. If you're having joint problems, you're having skin issues and things of that nature, you may want to stop eating the sugar. So, the processed sugar, the stuff we be buying in the stores, them cakes and cookies and pies, that ice cream, all that stuff that's delicious to our tongue, but is causing havoc in our bodies. And we want to have the best health possible. So why not invest in the thing that's most important to us, which is our health? So that's just a little provoking to better living. All right, so now this is all of our liquids that we're using. So that was water, olive oil, honey. And then I added salt in there. And the next thing would be the yeast, but I'm not going to put the yeast in right now. I'm going to actually put it in after I put in my flour. So we're going to do that right now. And I'm just going to put it in by the half cup fulls. I'm putting all of this in there, but just so that I don't make a mess. Just put it in there. It smells good. It smells like it's alive. Some live food. And the only way you're going to get it any fresher than this is you're going to literally have to be standing out in a wheat field harvesting, and then grinding it. And I don't think you can do it then because it may still need to be dried a little bit. So I think this is your best bet. Get all my product. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to move this around a bit. I'm going to add my yeast. So on these, the big pack, this is not just a single pack. It has a bunch of yeast in there. So it says 2¼ teaspoons is equal to 1 of the envelope. So we're going to put 4½ in there. One and a half teaspoons of our of our yeast. It's nice to have everything kind of together so you don't have to be hunting for your measuring spoon. All right. So now I'm ready to put my stuff in. Let's see. Is that it? Yeah. This is similar to like KitchenAid, a KitchenAid mixer from back in the day. But this is the Cook's brand. And it's nice. I got it from a coworker. And I got it for the cheap. Now my actual preference, because I'm mechanically minded, is that Ankersham. Now, to the Ankersham company, if you want to ship a brother that mixer, then I will be much appreciative of it. I'm just saying, you have not because we ask not. So hey, hook a brother up. But what in the meantime, I have this. So I'm just gonna turn it on to 1 for a moment, and then I'm gonna run it up to 3. And what happens is it will slowly blend all of that together. So I'm gonna bring you in close to actually see what's happening. You can see that the dough is being mixed together with the water, and as well as the yeast. And we don't really want a dry mixture, not with fresh ground wheat. We actually kind of want it a little bit sticky because of the amount of time that it takes for the fresh ground wheat to actually absorb the water and begin to make the gluten that we need in order to make real good bread. Because if you don't have any gluten buildup in there in your dough, then the bread typically will not rise well, and it'll be more dense, more firm. It's still edible. It's just it won't be as what you're close to what you're normally used to. So I may have to add a little bit more water. I don't know yet because we just got started. So I'll come back and we'll see. All right, so let's check in and see what's happening inside the mixer. As you can see, it seems to me like we're starting to get some gluten. Like I'm seeing bubbles, like an air pocket, which is good because that means that the gluten is forming. It hasn't taken a whole lot of time. I maybe 7 to 10 minutes, and I think I'm at a good spot. I'm gonna give it about maybe 2 more minutes, and then that'll be good. All right, so the gluten formation looks pretty good as far as what I can see. And so I think this is a good time to actually stop the mixing process and allow it to begin the process of doing its first rise. All right? All right, let's see what has taken place in this mixing process. It still looks kind of sticky, but when I was actually mixing it, it seemed to be forming that gluten consistency. As far as what I can tell, I don't know. I'm still learning the process. So what we're going to do now, I've turned on my oven light, and that will be the source of just heat so that the actual dough can begin rising up in its first rise. So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna put it into the oven and go from there. But in order to get, you don't want to leave any of your product. So let's just scrape it off. Now I use like a little non-stick spatula, and it seems to work the best to get all of a good portion of my product back into the bowl and off of the mixing attachment. There we go. There's still a little bit of dry, but it's not gonna hurt anything. It's not gonna hurt a thing. All right, let's prep it. I'm gonna turn this just like that, move it out. And then we're just gonna place it right here in the oven. I'm gonna cover it with a paper towel, and then I'll come back when it has risen. All right, so you can see now the dough has doubled in size. So what's next? I'm actually going to split it, put it in my dough bread pans, and then let them rise again. Let the dough rise again, and then prep the oven for baking. So this is almost the last step, other than this second rise that goes in here. And once it rises, then it'll be ready to bake. So I'm about to go on a meeting. So unfortunately, you won't see the second rise. You will see the finished product though. All right, thanks again. I am Reginald from the East to West Gardens, and you all have a blessed whatever time you in. All right, thank you. Bye. All right, look at here, look at here. Ooh. That bread is looking delicious and nutritious. Me using that parchment paper really paid off because the pans are nice and clean, and then the release was just beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. These are some wonderful loaves. I wish I could smell them. But since we don't have smell-o-vision, you just have to take my word for it. So that is the video of starting from wheat berry to whole wheat bread. That's what we're doing. So I hope this encouraged you. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you got some commentary, comment on it. If you want to see more videos, let me know. Engage with the video. Engage. Subscribe. Let me know and I'll do some more. All right. Y'all have a blessed rest of the day. Peace.
Yeah, that's good right now.
All right.
Cook it up, Red. Cook it up.
All right.